Hello everybody. We're gonna try to experiment with a little bit of form factor here, just so you know. I'm gonna be both drafting here on the left and then kind of marking some concepts up here on the left. And this, the theory or the theme of this, as I go over here to go to review, is for you all to get used to using a couple different programs, and I'll talk about how to do screen saves and everything later, and you'll see some problems come up. But we're gonna think about this why, and why do we develop good drafting habits. And this is a little bit of a defense, not that I need it, but maybe I do, for why we do things a certain way in the classes that I teach. And you're going to very quickly, I'll start giving people an ability to go off and do something else, but there's usually some thought to why we go about doing things like this. So why do we go File, New, and then pick from a short list? In this case, you see my short list is not the same short list at home, but I'm going to go to decimal feet and begin here. Why do we do that? Well, we want to basically establish an environment. Environment. Okay, so that's good in a lot of different things. Very often that environment has to do with coordinate system, metric, English, whatever. It has also to do with basically a color system and a system of symbols. Okay, you don't realize those are all the things that you set up here, but the triangle can mean many different things in different contexts, right? So you want to make sure that when you go through and start a template, you realize you're setting up a lot more than that. Okay, let me go see if I can do File. I want to go New. I want to go to here. Ooh, nice. Somehow that Home. I'm gonna get lost in this. No, File, New, blank presentation, create. Sorry about all that. Alright, so now why do you, I'm going to right click here. So when you're going back and forth, okay, on different programs, realize I'm working on one screen here and you're seeing all the bits. But why do you do certain things? Well, we don't really know. Just kidding. Alright, so that was over here. Once again, review, start inking, and I can write over here. In a program like this, I can come over back and forth with your mouse, and you can work in more than one. Getting used to two screens, I'm jumping back and forth, though it can sometimes be problematic. You need to notice, why do you have a pen? Well, you have a pen to write, and you have a mouse to do something else. So it's a lot easier. I'm going to go over here. You remember, right-click on any toolbar. I'm going to get rid of the view, and I'm going to leave up. I'm going to right-click on any in the gray space and get rid of the dimension. And right click. I've basically got up here, I've got the draw toolbar, I have got the modify toolbar, and I have the layers and the standard. Now you'll see sooner I won't necessarily carry around the standard toolbar we have here that match properties, the magic finger. So next, why do we draw? Why draw crazy analogies? And I say that. Okay, well, crazy analogies would be things like the magic finger. Well, magic finger, right? The concept of the magic finger in dancing, the magic finger, it's basically something that's going to be out in a lot of different software. This magic finger here, or the magic paintbrush, if you would, is something that you're going to see in a lot of different softwares. Okay, now let's get to some real stuff. Why draft a box? Why draft a box? Like, that's bigger than what we're going to draft. It's basically to set up perspective. Perspective. So you can basically, you can use your visual clues for the same reason. That's the same reason that you did basically why you use the same basic setup in terms of a template. Why did you save or file new? All right, now let's get to some of these habits. One thing we haven't even done yet is to, as soon as you start, go File, not use the quick save. I'm kind of jumping around with my mouse here and it's having a problem because it's getting to it. But it's File, Save As. Click to that. I'm going to show you here, many of you are not getting this habit yet, but you want to do it. You want to go up, all the way up to the H drive, etc., so you know where things are going. If you're on a machine that's saving in the right spot, that's fine, but this habit, so this habit of, all right, so I'm going to click on that. You want to do a File, Save As. I'm going to insert a new slide. Okay. So the habit of, once again, review, start inking. Immediately open from template. So the first one, sorry, is environment. Environment. Open from, I'm going to call it template. Bad case of the word, but a template is just something that we kind of use over and over again in the English speak. Okay, and then immediately save as. Put your tools back, basically. Put your drawings in the correct spot. And then draw a box. Okay, but when we draw a box, some of you will remember you want to draw a box by drawing lines to start. And we do that so we draw lines in the correct direction, even though this is not something that's important now, because lines are vectors. Go to a new here. Review, start inking. What is a vector? A vector has magnitude and direction. So when you draw from here to there, it's not the same as drawing from here to there. And later on, we'll see in AutoCAD it becomes important. Okay, why not? And this is the great defense there. Why not use the flea? And I'm going to show you the flea right now. Why do you not use it to start? And it has to do with learning mathematics and CAD as being the same thing. And so right now I'm going to turn on the flea and show you how the flea works. The flea is the dynamic there. I'm going to turn off the ortho and I'm going to do like we just usually do in class. I'm drafting a line. I'm going to tell it right there, that first point, I can tell it 100 tab 100, and it put that at 100 100, but now you see all these things when it's off the screen, you're getting very confused. And so you want to get used to the fact that you do not need to be using your visual clues. So in this point, if I start typing stuff, I'm not going to really be able to process it. So if I go ahead and say at 100 angle 0, zoom escape, zoom extents, okay, it actually did it, which is pretty good, but you know, it's really giving you way too many weird visual clues. If you remember, we can click on something, right click, go to properties, and this is the slow way around. We're going to find our faster way around, but we're learning the one way to do things that works from software to software. So we're going to use that, put it on a standard layer called view, and you see it does that. So that's one way to do it. Now the correct way, I'm going to go ahead and do the next line, that would probably be a good way, is to go turn off the dynamic, go from a line, even though you know I began at 100 comma 100, shift right click, endpoint, and now I'm going to say at 100 angle 90. Alright, once again, my current layer is center line, so I want to click from here and pick that up and tab it on. Alright, and then eventually I want to go ahead and change that to the correct layer there. Alright, so why do you use the at? And this really is the crux of why we use the at. Many different reasons, but we use the at command because we really want to put in your head as a technician and engineering in the small e word. In other words, you're going to be thinking solving problems, making things better. You want to think about two types of coordinate systems. You want to think about polar coordinates, which is the natural coordinate system, and Cartesian, which is useful when you're collaborating, but polar is really the more natural one. And then you want to think about relative versus absolute. And mathematically, you want to think about that. You want to be able to conceptualize and visualize. And so by using the at something, comma, something, comma, something, you get x, y, z, relative. And by using the at something and the angle are, this is a delimiter, this is distance, and this is azimuthal angle, and this is elevation angle. Elevation. You see them in a format that's going to be consistent with other programs and math notation. Alright, so that's why we try not to use the dynamic, though some of you will start to use it and that will be fine. Alright, next, why then use offsets? You use offsets, and I'm now going to do that. I'm going to type O for offset because my mouse is not set up at home. Your choices are distance or through. Why not say 100? Because in CAD, once something is on the page, it's the most exact. Shift right click, endpoint. Offset, T for through. Shift right click, endpoint. Okay, so why do we use lines and offsets and not the rectangles, or lines and offsets and through? Because lines, conceptually, let's go back to review. You keep lines parallel by using offset. And once again, I'm going to keep on leading you out to Euclid's precepts. So as I keep hinting to this, eventually some of you will look and you'll be able to feed into the conversation. Euclid's precepts. Now, we do this. We keep lines parallel by using offset, and then we keep their direction as well. Keep their directions. Right? Directions. Right? By using offset. So we make this box larger than it was, and I'm going to now show you the manifestation of that. I'm going to draw now a rectangle, and rectangle is one of the commands that you'll see people using, where you grab the first point. Do not read what it's asking for you. Use at, and I'm going to say 150, comma 150. In other words, I'm going to draft a box that's a little bit larger than that, zooming out. And now if you look, the visual clues, when I click on that versus that, are very different. That, escape, that are very different. The visual clues are showing you whether something is made up as a more complex object. And what I'm going to do now is going to teach you, you usually use the first letter of a command, but this time we're going to take X for explode. We're going to click on that, and now we're going to use LI for list. So I'm going to grab two of these and click LI, and you'll see the difference. One is going left to right, and one is going right to left. And so fundamentally, they look the same on the page. The second one was easier to draft because you just drafted a rectangle, but it gave you this kind of what's called a positive direction when you have your right hand, a clockwise, counterclockwise direction, but you lost the knowledge of what was the directionality to it. And so that's why we use lines and offsets to make boxes and not the rectangles. Later on, all these things can slide, but we're just starting to talk here about habits. I'll summarize and highlight this, but for now I'm going to stick this out, and you can kind of look at pieces of it and make comments. Thanks for listening.